Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for attending the Developing, Implementing, Assessing, and Improving for Student Success session. My name is Emo Nelson. I'll be moderating the session. Our speakers will be presenting for 30 to 35 minutes and we'll have 10 minutes for Q&A before the session ends. So the session has to end at 2:05. So if the presenter does not get to all of the questions, you can email the presenters at the emails that will be presented on the last slide. And if you do not get the email that was provided on the last slide, you can also contact or email the Office of University Assessment by the email. They will gladly give you the presenter's email. As a friendly reminder, this session is being recorded. When you register for the conference, you provided consent for the recording. If you do not want your likeness to be presented, please feel free to turn off your camera right now at this moment. With all that being said, I will turn it over to the presenter for their introductions and their presentation.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jennifer Collins. We are delighted to have you join our session today on developing, implementing, assessing, and improving academic support services for undergraduate student success. Today for our presentation, we have a phenomenal team of student success professionals who will share with you some of the insights that we've learned over the last few years. We have Mr. Dominique Bailey, our SLS instructor, Dr. Julian Bourne-Smothers, who serves as the SLS course coordinator. Dr. Jamie Davis may be joining us a little later. He is Director for Academic Support Services. Mr. Kenya Floyd will not be with us today, but he serves as our Special Programs Coordinator. And Mr. Todd Middleton, who is our Peer Mentor Coordinator. So we will get started. Today's agenda, we plan to provide you all with some session objectives, talk about how we developed our student support services, and then we will go into an example of implementing a student support service initiative, as well as how we assess that initiative, and then what we've done in terms of continuous improvement for this particular initiative. And we will conclude with a summary as well as entertain any questions that you may have of us. So our session objectives, what we want you all to walk away with is how to identify key strategies for developing effective academic support services that promote student success. In addition to that, we want you to be able to assess the current state of academic support services within your units and identify areas for improvement. And finally, we want you to be able to implement evidence-based practices that will enhance the effectiveness of student support services for our undergraduate students here at Florida A&M University. So let's get started with a poll from you all. We want you all to use the QR code and tell us what you think student success is. So provide us with your definition of student success. And we'll give you a few seconds to complete that. Did everyone have an opportunity to scan the QR code, or should I put it back on the screen?
Put it back.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Has everyone had an opportunity to respond? Give you about 20 more seconds. All right. So I'll share the poll results with everyone. We still have a few answers coming in. Progress, objectives, degree, ensuring goals, um, program, seamless, it looks like seamless progression for our students. And so, as you can see, there are many definitions for student success. And so, for our team, one of the ways that we have defined student success in terms of being able to measure it is more along student success outcomes. So our presentation today is going to focus on student success outcomes. So let's jump into our presentation. Establishing student success outcomes. So as many of you know, the university is held to the standard of the state performance-based funding metrics. And that means that there are metrics that apply to student success outcomes, such as students' academic progression rate from first year to second year, as well as four-year graduation rate. And there are some career outcomes as well. And so we decided for this particular initiative that we wanted to focus in on first to second year retention, because this plays a major role in the academic progress rate. An academic progress rate is simply students who return after their first year for their second year with a 2.0 GPA or higher. And so you'll see that one of the measures that we set internally is to decrease the number of students with a GPA below a 2.0 to less than 2%, and increase the number of students with a 3.0 and 30 credit hours to 60%, because we know that this particular measure impacts four-year graduation rate. And we know that service excellence is really important at the university. And so we established that we wanted to have a 95% parent and student satisfaction rate within the first year experience. And finally, we also know that the students that are undecided beyond their first year are less likely to graduate within 4 years. And so our goal is to decrease the number of undecided students at the end of the first year to less than 5%. So our office, in the Office of Undergraduate Student Success, provides comprehensive support services that includes academic coaching, academic success workshops, and also our Strike Forward program, which is embedded into what we do in the Office of Freshman Studies. So the initiative that we're going to review today is developing academic support services for first year students. And the reason we wanted to focus on this is because we know that there are many reasons that students don't persist or return for their second year. Those reasons include academic difficulties, challenges with being able to align what they want educationally and occupationally, not really knowing what it is they want to do, as well as financial concerns, and then not really connecting to the university. And so, because of those things, we created some initiatives, and we just want to see how familiar you are with those initiatives that we currently have. So if you will, again, scan the QR code and let us know if you're familiar with the services provided by the Office of Undergraduate Student Success here at Florida A&M University. And then we also want to find out what are the programs that you've heard of. So scan the QR code, answer the first question, and then just drop anything in the chat that you've heard about undergraduate student success here at Florida A&M University. Has everyone had an opportunity to scan the QR code? All right, I'm going to go to our poll. All right, so that's good news. 100% of you all said that you have heard about programs here at Florida A&M University. So we're excited to know that you have heard about us and the work that we're doing. So now we're going to ask you to share with us in the chat what you know about what we do in the Office of Undergraduate Student Success. What are the programs that you've heard about? SLS courses. All right, Dr. Kinsey. Anyone else before we move on to our next slide? All right, well, we'll keep going. So here's one thing that we did in terms of undergraduate student success, and that was the creation of the Office of Freshman Studies, which happened in 2020, right in the midst of the pandemic. And our office was established to foster resiliency and courage among first-year students, as well as encourage our first-year students to be personally responsible for their education. We also want to help students make connections within the university community during their first year, educate them about the campus resources. There's so many things that our students have access to at no charge. And we want to make sure that we're teaching our students how to develop and execute a plan for academic success. And so the Office of Freshman Studies was established. There's several different initiatives within that office, and today we're going to talk about some of those. One of the things that we did was the First Year Summer Academy. Also, we have the Access and Opportunity Program, along with our SLS Instructor Development and Course Alignment Initiative. We have an academic excellence program for students who fall below a 2.0 after their first semester, and we have a peer mentor program. So briefly, Dr. Davis was not able to join us. He is responsible in as far as academic support services, providing academic coaching to not just our first year students, but any student at FAMU who's interested in having an academic coach. It is a partnership between the coach and the student, and the focus is on how students can ensure that they are socially and academically integrated into the university. They talk about things like note-taking, time management. They help students establish goals. They talk to students about connecting to the campus resources that are available, and they encourage students to meet with them bi-weekly, and some students choose to meet with them weekly. They also offer workshops twice a month, and then they look at the data that they collect on the students to ensure that they have an understanding of the students and that the services are relevant to the students and supporting what the students need. So now I'll turn it over to Todd Middleton, who will share with you all about the Peer Mentor Program.
All right, you guys. So with the peer mentor program, so what we do is the first thing is our program was designed to really support and guide students as they matriculate to the university. So we deal with, of course, first-time students, and we assist them, with their personal challenges, anything academic or social. And the way we go about this is we pair the freshman students with upperclassmen, and those upperclassmen, before they even get started, have to attend these mandatory trainings, which we have in the summer and fall, before the summer semester or fall semester. And during those summer training sessions, we include things like time management, understanding things like campus resources, how to deal with a student in different crises or different things that a student will face when it comes to stress, or how to handle, a professor and being able to manage their time and, turn things like exam papers, things of that nature. and manage, just being a college student socially, being able to make friends and stuff. So the way we track this, we have biweekly meetings. So they have to meet, the mentors have to meet with their mentees on a biweekly basis. And they also have to meet with, the mentors have to meet with me, going over their meetings and kind of, so that way we're all on the same page, and really assisting the student if they are having anything extreme. If a student is having like a financial issue or something with academic advisement, then they'll let me know so that way I can point them in the right direction. We also have different events throughout the semester. We have these things called freshman forums, where we make it mandatory for the freshmen to attend, and we touch on things like financial literacy, counseling services as far as like, relationships, how to build, just a friendship, what a healthy relationship looks like. We also talk about things when it comes to like Title IX. So that way we give the students like, a broad spectrum from things from academics to socially. So that way they're supported holistically, honestly. So that's kind of our program in a nutshell.
Next, we'll hear from Dr. Julian Bourne-Smothers.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, I'll be sharing a little bit about our Office of Freshman Studies courses. We have our ASI courses and our SLS courses. So these are our student life skill courses. And we have only one instructor that is on board. All our other instructors are adjunct instructors, some that are FAMU employees, others are not. And so we have an application process and we go through that each year. We have a training for our instructors in the summer. Usually we have it mid-May and then a refresher later in July. For our teaching assistants, we also have trainings for them. The teaching assistants are in the classroom with our students at every class with each instructor. So they're assigned an instructor. We kind of have the students to choose which of the classes will fit with their academic schedule for their classes. And then we have biweekly or monthly meetings with the instructors, and with the TAs, we have twice per semester. So we have one-on-one meetings with each where they will come in and they'll share with me what is happening in their classes. And also for the bi-semester meetings for instructors, that's when all our instructors come together and kind of share what they're doing in their classes, best practices, so that way they can learn from each other. The TAs also do something similar where they come together monthly and they share out what they are doing in their classes. And last year we started the attendance and GPA tracker, which allows the teaching assistants to use that information to be even a better mediator between the students and the instructors. And so for those students who are not performing at their best, they have that bird's eye view, and then they're able to talk with them and then include the professor to help with that. And so from that, we have initiated what we call the Big Five, or the 5 major things that we want for the students. And in that, we have time management. We have where the students have the teaching assistant, their instructor, the coach, and also they have each other that they can rely on, so that way they have a support system. And for that, we want to create that sense of belonging. So each of our students within our first year experience courses and our ASI courses can have the support that they need to move forward. And then we have satisfactory survey, not just for our students, but for our instructors as well as our teaching assistants. So we have where the instructors tell us about the teaching assistants. We have where the teaching assistants tell us about the instructors. And then we have the students that do all the above. And so basically that's what we're doing in our courses in the Office of Freshman Studies. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Dominique Bailey is going to share about academic excellence.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Collins. Thank you, Dr. Bourne-Smothers. So a little bit about the Academic Excellence Program. I always joke with my colleagues that I have the esteemed privilege of just kind of being the brand inside of the classroom, because there's no better way to get a student's attention than perhaps grading. So the SLS course serves in 2 components. We do the 1101 and the 1122. I'll speak briefly about the 1122 simply because it'll give leadway to what we'll talk about on the big word as far as retention is concerned. So keeping those expected outcomes in place, we want to make sure that we're increasing the first year students' retention rate to 95%. making sure that we're decreasing the amount of students that fall below the 2.0, and then increasing the number of students that fall within that 3.0 range. But sometimes, as we know, some of those students fall below the 2.0 category, and that's when we, as an office, tried to put some of those wraparound services that you've heard before, a compilation of academic coaching, a compilation of teaching assistants and peer mentor, a compilation of other support services on campus. This is just all done in the scope of the classroom. And what we found is through this course, a lot of students are able to recover their GPA through the holistic approach that we've used. In addition to, we've had the opportunity for the past 2 years to pilot the program for the FAMU Digital Rattler experiences, where each of the students inside of the 1122 course were given an Apple device, and they were to use these Apple devices, as Dr. Bourne Smothers talked about, with the Big Five, helping out with time management, helping out with study skills, being able to also use these devices from a mental health perspective, where we require students to do weekly journal reflections. And in those weekly journal reflections, students are calculating their GPA as well. So all of these wraparound services help inside of the classroom because we're able to track it. And this is how the students are able to, number one, get the grade, number two, perhaps recover their GPA. And then lastly, making sure that we are putting the students in the best possible position to recover their GPA and then ultimately return to us within the university the following year. We do also allow for professional development. We have what we call the Academic Success Summit that we kick off at the beginning of each semester. And this is an opportunity to give the students a crash course in what is to be expected from their peer mentors, from the teaching assistants inside of the classroom, and then ultimately some tools to be able to make them successful. So that's what happens within the spring. Now, usually within the spring, there's students who do really well, what we've seen from our previous results. So as a result, our number one goal is to make sure that we put a safety net around these students to come back in the fall, which brings us to our retention piece. So when implementing our first time students enrollment campaign, we came out with a few different strategies that would help onset and bring these students back to the university. But before I do that, I do want to pause and just find out, what does the audience know in general about what the retention rate is. So if you could scan the QR code, and we're asking for a few things. Define the retention rate. Why does retention matter? And then lastly, have you heard about any retention initiatives from last year? Then I'll give you all another 20 seconds, Doc. You control it on your end. I don't have my Jeopardy music, but I don't mind singing.
Says responses are coming in.
Right. So for the first question, we asked, why does retention matter? And we see obviously students first, less failing in college. These are all good things. Making sure that first year students succeed, so forward, good. And then for our second question, Doc, was it just the first one, or?
Just the first one, if they can
Okay.
drop it in the chat.
All right. And then in the chat, if you could talk to us about why retention matters, and then have you heard about any retention initiatives from the last year? I'll give you about 30 seconds to do so. right, for the sake of time, we'll go ahead and continue with the program. And then as you guys throw those chats in there, retention matters for all of us. Thank you, Dr. Collins. As you throw those chats in there, hopefully the next 2 slides will give you a little bit more information about why retention matters and some of the structural changes that we're using to improve retention. So within the Office of Freshman Studies, we were able to hire what we call a retention specialist. And myself, alongside of other colleagues in the office, worked alongside the retention specialist. And our primary role, our primary goal was to help get these students re-enrolled or back enrolled within the university, ideally before they leave the semester. So we had a wraparound approach where advisors help assist with enrolling students in courses. We also, with Mr. Middleton, we had the peer mentors contacting students to determine whether or not if they were returning to the university. Oftentimes, the peer mentors have a little bit more leeway with getting some responses back. And then we also had myself focus on students who were below the 2.0, using different approaches to be able to get them back within the university. And this data was shared regularly with our leadership and our retention team. We even had small trinkets and rewards inside of the office as prize goals to keep us motivated throughout the semester. So these efforts are what we consider beyond the call of duty. We have our scope of the things that is important in our line of what we do inside of the office. But outside of that, our retention specialists also collaborated with student services, making sure that if students have a balance on their account, that we can work with financial aid or the foundation to see if there's some help that can be allocated. Using this opportunity to help share with other resources that are available on campus. And one of our key finders, or a couple of our key finders, found that there was a disconnect about how students get enrolled in classes versus the high school mindset. So they were believed to be that the counselor or the advisor would enroll them within classes and they just return upon the fall. So we wanted to do our best to kind of alleviate that. And then also receiving a call from the university from parents was well received as well. So these are some of the things that we as an office use as a collective effort to be able to make sure that, number one, our students are returning. Number two, that we're keeping them above that 2.0 threshold, and then ultimately contributing to the overarching goal of getting them graduated within 4 years. And I will turn it over. Oh, before I do so, let me share with you some results. So for the fall enrollment, we kept a tab each month from May to August consecutively. And as you see, using some of those strategies listed before, we saw an increase from month to month about the fall 2024 enrollment. And I will pause if there's any questions. If not, I will turn it back over to my colleague, Mr. Middleton.
All right, guys. So I'm going to talk about the kind of our fall retention efforts. More show you guys some of the data points and kind of some of the strategies we use in order to increase retention. So with that being said, what we would have is we'd have the mentors, like I said, in conjunction with some of our Office of Freshman Studies staff. So we do biweekly admission reports. So I would do biweekly admission reports. I'll send those out to everyone in the Office of Freshman Studies, letting them know who is enrolled, who's coming in for the fall or that spring semester. As well as what we would do is contact at-risk students using things like Civitas, biweekly meetings with the peer mentors or the SLS instructors. And then we would try to make sure they're enrolled for class for that spring semester by tracking, getting that enrollment report from Dr. Denge, making sure that the students who have not enrolled, as far as like get questions on why they haven't enrolled, it could be something like financial aid or academic advisement. So we would make sure we go through that process and make sure we, if we were able to assist with the student and get them enrolled for that next semester. As well as doing things like helping the students who had above a $500 payment. We ended up actually paying for some of those scholarships. We had to deal with, I think it was not the registrar's office, but I think it was admissions. What we would do is we end up covering some of the balances in order to get the payment below $500. So that way the students can enroll for that semester. We'd also use learning centers for biweekly data points. So making sure that the students who attended those learning centers we would get that report and use that to contact the students if they have not enrolled, or if they were we saw that the student was going there frequently and was having issues. We would make sure we'd contact the student and make sure that they were able to get enrolled for that spring semester, as well as looking at the final grades. So that was more towards the end of the semester, and contacting and calling those students to get them enrolled for that upcoming semester. So holistically, what we did was we would honestly reach out to the student on a daily basis. My colleagues could tell you on a basis, making sure that the kids are doing what they're supposed to do. So that way we could make sure that we hit those retention numbers because we realize, just building that relationship with the students is crucial for us to, retain them into the university at the end of the day. So with the peer mentor program, with that being said, our overall satisfaction was 85%. So that means that 85% were the kids who strongly agreed. So that's what I got that number from. So we sent out an overall satisfaction date. So 85% of the kids strongly agreed that the peer mentor program assisted with them in college, or assisted them with them matriculating and building that sense of belonging within the community. So we had 85%, which I'm proud of during that fall semester. And then as far as interactions, that's all in person interactions. That includes everything from meetings or just daily talks, as far as them seeing some sort of face-to-face interaction. That's what that takes into account. I didn't take into account text messages because that's hard to track. We used to do that, but not anymore because that's kind of tough to track. But it was more so face-to-face interactions. So we were at 2,548, which is pretty good. So that, like I said, that includes everything from the one-on-one meetings where the student would talk to the student mentor about some of the issues they were having, or just to catch up and see how they're doing within their classes. And then with our GPA results, so for the fall semester, all the students who were assigned a mentor, they had a 3.22 GPA cumulative GPA for that fall semester. So I would say kudos to the mentors for meeting with them and the kids staying on task. So everyone who was assigned a mentor, overall, that's the average. Let me clarify, average with 3.2 GPA. So proud of that, as well as some of the most common concerns students face, and that's more so like some of the issues they were having was like either was financial, academic. So that's more so with classes, financial things like financial aid, student loans. So we try to walk through the students through that process. And if they had any issue that we could not immediately answer, we would take them to the proper resources or departments. And then stress management. Usually when it came to stress management, we'd really coach the student on how to handle stress management when it came to like having a planner or going to the counseling services, or do you guys exercise, or something simple as far as just make sure the kid they ate breakfast, on a day-to-day basis. So like I said, these results come from really just making sure we're building that relationship with the freshman students, because that's what's going to drive everything else at the end of the day. So where we're at now, looking at our cohort, so we're at 94% of the fall to spring. We had a retained, so about 95% if you added round up. So about 95% of the kids were retained from that fall to spring semester. And then we had 55% of the students above a 3.0, and then we had about 92% of the students above a 2.0. So again, the reason why those numbers show is because here with the office, our biggest thing is relationships, just making sure that we do have those great relationships with the students, making sure that, we have them come to those workshops and we're communicating with them on a constant basis and just being consistent. Because if you're not, then you're not going to be able to really assist the kid or help them, give them the necessary tools or necessary, point them in the right direction. So the biggest thing is that we do is just really stress meeting with the kids and checking in on them and making sure that they're doing what they need to do. So that way we're able to not only hit our goals, but the students are also able to succeed as well. So I think that's it. Yeah. So if anyone has anything on some continuous improvement retention. Right.
Dr. Smothers?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Okay, so with everything that's been said, we want to continue to improve our retention efforts. And some of the things that we're looking at in doing so includes shared vision across campus. So that way everyone is aware of what we're doing. So that way we can all buy into the vision and make sure that we are all doing our part to make sure we're retaining our students. So our leadership team is very much on board with what we are trying to do. So we want to have a deeper understanding of our student population, not just knowing that, okay, they had higher GPA this semester, but what are some of the underlying things that are impacting our students in terms of their performance once they get to college. We also want to be more collaborative with our students' success strategies. And so because of that, we're moving across campuses and building relationships with different departments and units. One of the things that we're looking at is the alignment of our first-year courses that are not first-year courses, along with our SLS course 1101, to make sure that we're sharing the same information across the board and students are able to use that information in case they didn't take SLS and they want to change their major from where they were. Some of the things that were implemented in those classes are the same things they would have learned in SLS. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. And then some of what we're thinking of to do next is continue to ensure that we reach out to our students, wrap our arms around them, so that way we can have them to enroll for this for the upcoming semester. So we are also looking at those students who did not perform very well in the fall. What are some of the things that we can do? Mr. Bailey alluded to the SLS 1122 course, and that course is specifically geared towards students which were not doing so well academically, and it could be for varied reasons. And so based on that, Mr. Bailey is very instrumental in ensuring that our students get the support they need for that. And then for a first-time enrollment campaign, we're going to continue to do that, where we have the academic advisors or coaches and our student employees, peer mentors, teaching assistants, and ambassadors reach out to our students to help us with that piece in terms of and then we're going to continue with the establishment of a retention network. So more of what we did last year to have that wraparound service where we're actually touching those students, calling them to make sure they're coming back. And if they're not, try to find out why they're not coming back and to see if FAMU is not the best fit, then that's fine. But if we are, what can we do to ensure that they come back? And then we want to continue to build a robust and proactive or intrusive academic calendar. This is something that we're going to be working on in another few weeks that we'll have to roll out for the next year. But for sure, we're going to have that for the fall.
Thank you, Dr. Bourne-Smothers.
You're welcome.
So this is the end of our presentation. We hope that it was beneficial to you. Please scan the QR code, let us know how we did, but also drop in the chat and tell us what your takeaways are from today's sessions and how you plan to use the information provided to impact student success in your unit and in your role. Thank you all so much for your time today. We'll entertain any questions that you all may have. Seeing no questions, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Nelson.
Okay, everyone, thank you for the presentation. It was very helpful. And I learned a lot about the retention that I didn't know about coming in, because in my time of being at FAMU, I didn't know I had that much understanding of retention then than I do now. So I want to say thank you for that. And for what y'all doing now is very great. And if anyone don't have no questions, then y'all are free to go. Thank you so much for the presentation again.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great day.